Sound that is the Unfiltered band. It means, yes, another episode of Unfiltered coming at you right here and now. Officially, this will go down as episode number 119 of Unfiltered in October. Unfiltered here live on a Friday at noon Eastern time. We'll take you for about the next 90 minutes. And, of course, welcome to the most of you who will get us on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcast belated today as you get set for tomorrow night on a Saturday where we, thanks to the rain, will have a travel day today. Get ready for Game 6 with Dusty Baker. One win away from that elusive World Series championship as a manager. The Astros go home with a 3-2 lead. Zach Wheeler, Framber Valdez on the mound for Game 6. We'll look ahead to that, look back at the last couple of games, and much, much more right here on this show, right here and now. And thank you, Unfiltered Band. Busy bananas kind of show coming up today. Our guy Gibby, John Gibbons, going to join us in just a few minutes. Jody McDonald, who's got the pulse of Philly as much as anybody I know, will give me the thoughts from Philly fans who were just a couple of days ago sitting there with all the home runs and all the Philadelphia craziness in that city and the momentum. And now all of a sudden, 48 hours later, one game away from this story ending with Zach Wheeler with fatigue, but with some extra time, which we'll get into here on this show. Getting ready for Saturday's game coming up for game number 6. We'll talk to Jody Mack about that. Adam Jones, one of my favorite people in the league, long time, will join us live from his home in Barcelona. We'll talk to him about the series, get his thoughts as we look ahead to game 6 and the Hall of Famer, Baseball Hall of Famer, CINNATI, Cincinnati Reds lifer Barry Larkin will join me here on the program as well. Also, he'll be not only discussing with us the World Series, but promoting Baseball United, something that he, Mariano Rivera, and others are a part of that you will want to hear about. But, of course, got to hear about how we're here, and that's with our good friends at Bet Online. We thank them. As always, we are presented by our good friends at Bet Online, and we tell you that basketball is back, and Bet Online remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends over at Bet Online is your continued source for all your sports wagering information. Bet Online's got live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. It is always the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports and events, whether it's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, or even golf. It's simple. Get over to betonline.ag. That's betonline.ag to join and get your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. To receive your rewards. It's Bet Online, where the game starts as we get started here on a Friday. And welcome to all of you who are watching with us and joining us live. 3 ways, as always, that you could be a part of this show very, very easily if you're joining us on the live stream. 1, you could chat with us on Twitter. Get in at Casey Stern. Join the Unfiltered Revolution. Watch us live there. Pop open the box, as I just did chat with you. You could chat along the way, and we'll share your thoughts and comments and questions here on this show. Or one of 2 ways through YouTube. In my Twitter at Casey Stern, you can get in the YouTube, my YouTube channel in the bio, or Believes, that's BLEAV, where you can watch us live as well. You could chat along the way. And, of course, it's okay to be belated, as we are with the folks with Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcasts. It's been talked about everywhere just how long this Hall of Fame career for Justin Verlander had gone without that World Series win. And yesterday, if you go look back at the numbers and we sit there and we say, okay, well, only 5 innings, in the old school line of thinking, that's not a lot for a starter. Maybe you look at it one way, but you look at it the way the game truly went, and that was earned. That was a hard-earned victory by Justin Verlander. Got into trouble multiple times, able to get out of damage, make big pitches, and finally his World Series win in his now Cooperstown resume. Going to add to that, of course, a Cy Young here officially in a few days. For Dusty Baker, on the managing side, he is 1 win away from that World Series that has eluded him for oh so long. Speaking of managing, we talk about that and more with our guy, Gibby, who opens the show with us here as we begin on an edition of October Unfiltered. We'll get Gibby back here in a second as he will join us live on the show. We'll talk to him. Let's see if we have him now. There he is. Hello, Mr. Gibbons. How are you, sir? Gibby, can you hear me? I think I got you. Can you hear me okay, Gibby? I hear you. Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me now? John Gibbons. His name was Gibby. He was a showman. No? All right, we'll get back to Gibby in a second. This is why, if you joined us a couple of days ago when Gibby's first came on, he was with his wife in the bed at the in-laws' place trying to figure out how to use this. Normally, he gets the technical difficulty situated. We'll see if he can get that figured out. We'll get him back on here in just a couple of minutes. Let's try this again, see if he can hear me. Don't you love live television and Emmy award-winning broadcast? Gibby, can you hear me okay? Gibby, can you hear me? No, that's a negative. Well, we're just listening to me sing. We'll get him in here in a second. When you think about the Justin Verlander situation, you've got to look at it this way. Here's a guy who has put together enough of a resume that after that injury, he could have gone away and he'd accomplished everything in his career he could ever want. Got a World Series and ended up getting a World Series win. Been to multiple World Series. Could have walked off and with his family and Kate Upton and the Hall of Fame career and everything and just said bye. Takes a special kind of fortitude to be the kind of an athlete and a performer over the course of your career that Justin Verlander is. That's a one top percentile dude in general. That's why he came back. But at 39 years old, to do what he's done, put together a Cy Young campaign, and then be able to kind of stamp it yesterday with that performance. I know if they won this World Series and he didn't get a win and he had pitched poorly again and blown the lead 5-0 in game one, and that was the story that was told, that wouldn't be something that he would feel very good about, regardless of the fact that obviously it's more about the team, and I believe that. But he's a competitor. That's how he got to this point. So for Justin Verlander, a big start yesterday. On the other side, for the Philadelphia Phillies, after all the runs they scored a couple of days ago, putting up a 7 spot, putting up the 5 home runs, beating the crap out of Lance McCullers in those pitches, whether he's tipping or not, or just not throwing fastballs or combination of both. They had issues for 2 consecutive days without getting hits. One, no hit literally. The other one yesterday, not a mucho after Schwarber able to hit that home run early in that game. Gibby, can you hear me now? Do we have you okay? No, I don't know if he can. We'll get some technical difficulties. I don't want to make you stare at him. We'll look at him back here in my box down below on the left. We'll see if we can get Gibby all settled. In the meantime, Jody McDonald, Adam Jones, Barry Larkin still to join the show as well. When you look at the Philadelphia Phillies situation, look, they had opportunities yesterday. You know, we're talking about a team that was 4 for 8, the first 8 ABs with runners in scoring positions in this series, and then they went 0 for the next 18. Failed across the board, not able to come through in those spots. And when you are a home run happy team, and we saw this with the Yankees clearly to a larger extent, Phillies have scored a ton of runs. They've been able to mash and do enough with that kind of a motif of being a, look, feast or famine team that you can strike out a bunch. And certainly we saw that with the fastball, the invisible, if you will, a couple of days ago, Christian Javier. But when you are a team that is not really rallying necessarily, even though we saw that in a Padres series in an inning, but for the most part, you're hitting homers. You're not getting a lot of base hits. JT Realmuto right now, and they talked about it yesterday in the broadcast, and rightfully so, the amount that he's caught. At this point, you maybe don't drop him in the order if you're sitting there and you're Rob Thompson, but here's a guy who clearly fighting it a bit, has struck out, 10 of the last 14, 15 at-bats. So, yeah, I'm not sure necessarily, whether or not the Phillies can turn things around here. We'll find out whether or not they can. You can get to us along the way in the chat here 3 ways as we continue here on the broadcast. Of course, Jody McDonald will join me, get the Pulse of Philadelphia coming up here in a couple of minutes. We'll get his thoughts and also continue to try and see if we can get John Gibbons. Gibby, can you hear me? All right, you said I see you saying you could hear me. I cannot hear you. I don't know if you want to check to see where the mic is coming out of to make sure. See, this is why you get the technical help before you do these things. I know that. If you want to check to see maybe where your sound is coming out of and make sure that your volume is up or that your mic is up. I don't know if you want to give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. You look beautiful if that makes you feel better. But let me know if you can get back in here. Otherwise, we will try and get Gibby back on the show tomorrow. Also hoping to have Mike Stanton on the show tomorrow, and Mike Gill in Philadelphia will join me as well. So we'll have a busy program looking ahead to game number 6. when you think about what happened yesterday in this game, Jeremy Pena, to be in the spot that he's in, it's a pretty special story. And I mentioned this a couple of days ago. I think it was when Joe Soralla was on. But because the Astros are the Astros, those Astros of that story of 2017, and everybody wondering about the trash cans and everything else that happened, and because Altuve and Bregman and Gurriel's still on the team, nobody giving them credit. But because of that, nobody else getting credit either. Because of that, nobody else is getting credit either. You're not hearing about just how great Jeremy Pena has been, for example, especially as a rookie, to be as good as he's been. It's pretty remarkable. And to be in a situation where you win a Gold Glove, first guy to do that as a rookie as a shortstop, pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. And he has come up with some big hits. And yesterday in an at-bat that was key, of course, early in the game, able to get in a run, and then later had the biggest one in the game. I mean, look, we've seen so many runs scored that who knew, especially in Philadelphia, that would be the backbreaker. But pretty impressive to see Pena with that at-bat yesterday and being able to hit that home run. And he's been great. The Astros have been able to get it. Look, here's the ironic thing, right? The Astros are one win away from winning it all. They came into this series having not lost a game at all in any of the previous series going into this World Series. And Yordan Alvarez has not hit since the series against the Mariners, where he was brilliant. Hadn't hit at all. Hadn't been able to get it done. You're looking at a situation where you haven't had, let's be fair, what you expected, at least across the board, out of Altuve, though he's certainly woken up in the last couple of days. Alex Bregman's been really their most consistent hitter. They've gone a long way without having their lineup really going on all cylinders, and that's how scary that team is. And you saw again yesterday, I mentioned this talking about Brian Abreu a few days ago. One of the reasons why you go back to game one, and, there were certainly a lot of questions about whether or not Dusty and I had some, whether he had left Verlander in too long. And we talked about this with Mike Stanton earlier in the week, among others. You got to get the lead to that bullpen because it is so dominant. So dominant. And when you've got guys like, Brian Abreu, who could be closing seemingly for like 26 teams, it's pretty special. And you want to get to those horses as quickly as possible. And I think as much as Valdez has been a guy that they certainly trust inherently, and for understandably so, he also led the league in innings this year. You may see him get handled a little bit more gingerly in game number 6.
Is having connection issues.
There we go. Gibby, I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you now. Can you hear me? Well, we'll see. Gibby, can you hear me? All right, we'll try and get John Gibbons back here in a couple of minutes. We'll see whether or not we can figure that out. Of course, technical difficulties. In the meantime, let's bring in Joe Knack. Jody McDonald joining me. Hey, Joe, how are you, sir?
Casey Stern, how the heck are you?
I'm doing well. How are the Phillies fans doing, sir?
They were pretty bummed walking out of the stadium last night. I was one of them. Last night was, and I was there last night, but not the night before of the combined no-hitter. So I can't compare Philly fans at the ballpark to 2 consecutive days. But listening to the radio on the way home last night on WIP, the broadcast outlet for the Phillies, fans were more bummed out last night than the night before. Because when you just get shut out, you got no chance, hell of a pitching performance by the opponent, you kind of tip your cap to them. But last night, the Phillies had chances. They had guys on base. They had traffic. They couldn't come up with the clutch hit. I think last night's game was more frustrating. You would think, oh, my God, only second a no-hitter in the history of the World Series. No, they kind of chalk it up to, sometimes the other guy is better. Last night, they had their chances and just they weren't clutch, something that this team has been for the good majority of the year.
Yeah, to your point, we're chatting with Jody Mack. Look, Javier was, look, and you're a guy, you watch pitching your whole life and, doing your own scouting. It's in the blood, right? Of looking at guys, I think it was Ken Rosenthal who said that he got a text during the broadcast. He said, I don't know if you were at the game, but he said during the broadcast, Kevin Cash texted him and said, that's the best pitcher on either team. after facing him this year. We may be telling that story a year from now. I mean, that guy's stuff in that game was, you could tell this isn't just one-off. I mean, look, he no-hit the Yankees, was part of that, right? And then was brilliant against them a week ago. But Jody, he has such life on that fastball and such giddy where, of course, it's not real when it rises, but because of the plane he's coming off of, if he continues to keep his mechanics in, that's a guy who's got Cy Young potential if you get him deep enough and give him 30 starts in a season next year. That's how good Javier could be.
And off what he's done in this postseason, how can you be thinking anything but can we get him 30, 31, 32 starts next year? That would, in case anyone in Houston is listening, Houston, you don't have a problem. What you have is one of the most live arms in all of Major League Baseball. Yeah, get him as many starts as you can. And the thing that I heard 2 or 3 people say, and I was thinking the same thing, but it was nice to have it confirmed by other people's baseball's opinions that I agree with. He's only throwing 94, 95. And how many guys did we see just last night getting it up there? 99, 100, 101, Alvarado. But it's the fastest 94 miles an hour you've ever seen. Everybody is late on it. Everyone. And the Phillies have some good fastball hitters. Bryce Harper can get around on anybody. Kyle Schwarber can get around on anybody. They weren't even close. It's deceptive when you look up at the scoreboard and it's only 94. How the hell could I be so late on 94? It just gets on you so quickly. The Phillies had no chance.
And the deception, right? Because here's a guy he's showing it to you at just the right time where you can't pick it up. And look, I'm watching the Schwarber at-bats. You slow those down. You could tell he's late. And this is a guy who's never not ready for a fastball. If anything, we've seen it in the series. He's so ready, he pulls them just foul for homers. I mean, for people who don't know, I mean, let's go baseball one. Obviously, you know this, but for people who listen, because you just never know, and it's important. If somebody's late on a fastball like that, is he foul it off totally the other way? He early on fastball, Schwarber, and he was late. That's how fast it looks like it's coming up. And Abreu, I've said this, Jody, I've been talking about this the last couple of days. This guy could close for 30, probably all of the teams. I mean, unless you got Diaz, Class A, or maybe 2 other guys. This guy's stuff at his size, you want to talk about, and that's what made game 1, you go back to it, great for the Phillies, but if you're an Astros fan, you're kicking yourself. You got to get Abreu in the game, not at 5'5", but at 5'4", because that dude is just unhittable. To me right now, he looks like the best arm they got in their bullpen every time he comes out there.
Does, and give Presley credit because he got the job done last night. And you're talking about Schwarber and his ability to pull. In the 9th, he whips the ball down the first base line. Mancini makes a good play. Now, he's right at him. He didn't have to move. He's playing the bag, and the ball is right on the bag. And Schwarber pulling the way Schwarber pulls, and he hit it hard. But he hit it right at him, and that was the difference in last night's game. The Phillies had a couple of balls that they hit right at guys. And, oh, by the way, Houston played better defense. They deserved to win. The Phillies first baseman, who you and I have talked about previously, the winning run scores on a play at first base that if he fields cleanly, he's got a chance to nail the guy at the plate, which, of course, he doesn't, and that ends up being the game-winning run. So one of the things, as a baseball diehard, you had to appreciate last night was defense did help to decide the game, and the better defensive team won.
And look, it's hard. For a Philly fan right now, I outside of a Philly fan, everybody feeling good for Trey Mancini because he hasn't hit well. We all know his story. He's really one of the terrific guys in the game and ambassadors for a number of reasons and how amazing it was to see him in that spot. Look, by the way, not a dynamic defender anyway. Guy who DHs a lot and has played even in the outfield some. So for him to get that, but in the outfield, here's McCormick. And yeah, I'm having visions of, Philly fans are having bad nightmares of like Rowan running into the wall and things that actually went good for them that didn't necessarily hear. But when that ball was hit and you're watching it in flight, I'm thinking, look, we've already seen Real Muto have an inside the park homer in this postseason. I mean, I'm thinking that's at least 2, if not 3 bases in that spot with just the bounce. You knew it wasn't going out, Jody, but how high off the wall. When you're sitting there watching that play live, did you have any thought whatsoever that McCormick was going to be able to catch that ball?
When it first left the bat, yes, but then I almost self-corrected because I got to say this, Case, and it was a little chilly in Philly last night, unlike the night before where you could have gotten a t-shirt. But it was down into the high 50s by the time the game started. But the ball carried last night. The Pena home run, I thought Schwarber had. I thought he was going to catch it on the track, not even have to go to the wall and jump. And it just carried right into the first row of the stands. So I said, all right, the ball's carrying tonight. So when JT hit his, I said, this got a chance to go out. And McCormick made a hell of a play, tracked it perfectly, and timed his jump perfectly. So, yeah, it was kind of a difficult to judge type night at Citizens Bank Park. And yes, one of the two teams did it better than the others. And that was the
Philly
Astros.
kid. And a Philly kid, too, right? So, I mean, for him, that's a special, right? Family in the stands and all of that. Thor did, look, I know Pena got the homer. To your point, even though he left that in the zone, and he probably could have had him out earlier in that bat, which I'm sure Syndergaard is kicking himself for. I'm no Syndergaard apologist. You know where my allegiances stand. I don't think, there are many that are necessarily, though every Philly fan is rooting for him last night. If I told you before the game, this is what he's going to do, that's how you drew it up, right? I mean, Thor, and for last night, did everything he was supposed to do and more, Jody, for that team.
As a matter of fact, if you're going to look, and he ends up absorbing the loss, but if you're going to wonder about where did this go wrong, yeah, I'm going to put it on the manager. And there's been a couple things to Rob Thompson decisions that he's made where I'm going, oh, I wouldn't do that. And then he ends up being right. So you go, yeah, don't second guess Rob Thompson. He's blessed right now. He's pushing every
like
right
game
button.
game three, Jody, of the LCS, right? For example, against the Padres.
That one, and even game one of this series where he managed as if it was game 7. I'm going,
right.
He's bringing in Alvarado and saying anything now this early in the game. Yes, and it worked out perfectly for him. And yeah, he gets all the credit in the world. I tweeted out before the game started that they needed Syndergaard to go 3 innings for them, which would be just 1 inning less than Nola gave them the night before, who's supposed to be able to go deep into games. And he didn't, of course, but he pushed the envelope. And he wanted to give him one more batter, one more up down, and that guy ends up hitting a home run. And if you had a game plan going in, or at least mine was, and who the hell am I? I'm just a stupid talk show host. I'm not the manager of the Phillies. But I said, if they get 9 outs out of Syndergaard, be thankful. If you're within a run, and they were, it was tied. It was 1-1 because Schwarber hits home run first batter at the bottom. Either down a run or even, then you take your puncher's chance after that, and you bank on your bullpen. A tough matchup because the Astros bullpen is as good as it is, but you take your chance. Make it a 6-inning game. Get 9 outs out of Syndergaard, and they got 9 outs out of Syndergaard, tied at 1, and they went for one more out. And they ended up paying a price.
So you think Syndergaard did a good job, but somebody should have gotten out of his way, gotten him out of his own way, and taken him out for the 3 innings. Especially, look, Brogdon, I mean, comes in, basically setting records for strikeouts in a 2-inning performance. Man, did he look good last night, too. So ended up being the right guy in the next spot, but you're thinking maybe an at-bat or two
one at-bat too late, which is unfortunate. Now, again, give Pena credit. They hit a good pitch. I actually thought Schwarber had. I really did, Case. When the ball left the bat, I said, all right, that's 1 out. And he just kept going back and back and back. Oh, my God, it's out of here. I didn't judge it well off the bat. And we were sitting up high, which you can get a good judgment on. We were up in the 300 level, down the first base line. So we were looking right at it. I thought Schwarber was going to make the play, and the ball just carried on out.
Let's talk Jody McDonald joining us. Adam Jones, Barry Larkin still to come. Let's talk Wheeler, okay? We know the fatigue is now out there, right? And has been talked about, which you kind of hate having happened. And it's one of those where it's like, I don't know if necessarily anything needed to be said. They could have just said they were going to wait an extra day and keep him on, but they put it out there. Okay, so now everybody knows. Here's a guy, 86 pitches, brilliant, but taken out, maybe earlier than he had to be in a game where they end up winning a series to get here. The first time that we see him in this series, he gets ambushed. Kind of settles down a bit, but not throwing the fastball, Jody, with the velocity or with the intention. And that's the key word with his fastball that we're used to. Just how quick is the hook, season on the line, for Ranger Suarez in game 6 to be sitting out there backing him up? And then, oh my, I know you can't worry about tomorrow, but then basically you're putting the whole season on Nola should you somehow win that game in a game 7.
I think that they're going to live and die with Wheeler. He's been their ace all year long. Yes, he had the downtime, missed a month, but then came back and was building up nicely. And then they give again. I know this ticks Philadelphia fans off because in Philadelphia, no one ever wants to give credit to the other team. The Astros did a great job coming out and jumping on him early. 4 pitches in, and you've got 3 doubles and 2 runs on the board. That's just good pre-planning and strategy and aggressiveness. So I'll give the Astros credit. Now, Nola wasn't good enough. We found out over time. We didn't know then that he wasn't going to be able to get anywhere near 99, and he's capable of throwing 99, and he's topping out at 96 and averaging 94, 95, and it just wasn't the Zach Wheeler that we'd seen all year or known all year. But I think they're going to go to the wall with him. I think that it would be highly unlikely that Ranger comes in, and I think that the manager may leave himself open up to that criticism that, hey, how could you not get Ranger into that game? Because you don't know what Ranger's going to do on short rest either. You could bring him in,
but he answered every bell, Jody. I mean, Ranger Suarez. Look, I know we're talking about Zach Wheeler, but I'm only using this point of reference if Wheeler's not right. If Wheeler's right, then even if he gives up 2-3 runs early, he's liable to get in the 7th inning anyway, tied at 3, right? We know that. But they're going to be watching closely that fastball because here again is the thing. He knows that he didn't have it. And I went back to when I talked about this earlier this week, I went to, and it's a comparison and they're friends. And certainly, he mirrors a lot of what DeGrom does. And that's not an accident. When DeGrom was pitching against the Padres in a couple of weeks ago, it seems like a year ago at this point, he realized he had no fastball in the middle of the game and threw sliders for like an inning and a half. Now, he's Jacob DeGrom, so he was able to figure it out. But the Padres figured that out pretty quickly as well. That's what happened in this game that Wheeler just pitched is early. I'm with you because I feel the same way you did. They ambushed him and they did the right thing. But they started to realize, not to Lance McCullers' level where he wasn't showing a fastball, but Wheeler was going away from his heater. How much do you think they have to, and JT needs to, make sure that he's got Wheeler pitching with confidence with that fastball, even if it's not the level that we're used to? Because if the Astros know he's going away from it, Jody, you can't put that team in a rocking chair just waiting for breaking balls because they'll crush him.
It's a good point, Case. Here's how, if you're suggesting to me, and again, JT Realmuto's a Gold Glove catcher and handles pitching staffs tremendously. I don't know that I could advise.
Well, what do you want to see? How do you?
Here's what if JT asked me, here's what I would say. You have to assume going into the game, you're going to get his ace stuff, that Zach Wheeler can throw every single pitch the best he can throw it as he's thrown it all year, and you have to call the game accordingly. I would not look to try and keep them off base and know they'll be looking for the off-speed stuff because the fastball wasn't there. I wouldn't try and force feed the fastball. I would go into it as open-minded as I possibly can. Assuming pitch number 1, Zach Wheeler's at Zach Wheeler's best, called the game that way, and then you have to adjust. And maybe they didn't adjust quickly enough off the first 4 pitches. Can you really believe we're talking about the first 4 pitches of the game? Oh, my God. You had to know his fastball wasn't there. You didn't know it. I didn't know it. JT didn't know it. Zach didn't know it either. So, but with everything on the line, that's the kind of thinking you have to have. We have to be in the right position. And I think the right position should be, we're assuming that Zach said his best.
You mentioned JT Realmuto. I know you're at the game, but they talked about it. John Smoltz, and I'm glad he did. And I'm not making an excuse, but neither was he, but I'm glad he pointed it out to remind people as they're watching JT Realmuto have some struggles. Yeah, who, by the way, hit a huge 9th inning homer not long ago, like a week ago. But here's a guy who has he's doing the Yadier Molina-like thing that other catchers don't do, where he's catching every game and has seemingly done it now for months, all high stress, all these innings, all the pitches, all the studying off screen, and hitting sometimes takes a back seat. Now, when you're Yadier or Molina, we just need a clutch hit every now and again because you're hitting 6th and 7th. And I had Albert Pujols or Matt Holliday or versions of him, right? Arenado this year and Goldschmidt. But JT Realmuto hitting 3rd in the order. That's a difficult thing to do during this spot. Watching him, would you consider, if you're Rob Thompson, any change in this order whatsoever, which might include maybe dropping him down a bit with Valdez on the mound, or are you leaving it the way it is?
Here's the problem with that, because everything gets
of course, that's what we did.
It's
the World Series, right?
And by the way, JT came this close to hitting the ball out and tying the game last night. And no one's talking about, he's kind of struggling with the bat a little bit. Another foot and a half, he's not struggling with the bat anymore. Who are you moving up? Who's the guy who's down in the lineup who you're not getting because he's getting a hit, batting 7th or 8th? They right now don't have that guy. They just got no hit, of course, and they got a handful of hits last night, just no clutch hits. Castellanos, no, I'm not moving him up.
His ABs have been better, so at least that's comforting if you're a Philly fan, because you're going to need someone else to have a big at bat. I think one thing Smoltz said that I agree with, that Castellanos and Bohm part of that batting order in the wins has given you had the big hit from Castellanos right on that ball that Verlander probably shouldn't have thrown. He probably could have thrown the heaters. He doesn't. Castellanos on the play before Hoskins doesn't come home when he should have. Okay, now he gets the run in, starts that rally. Bohm's had the big home run, has had a couple of another big hits, had a huge hit last night to try and start a rally. Those guys, for them to win Game 6, got to come through somewhere. Are you at least more comforted watching Castellanos' at-bats, which seem to be much more competitive, the word I like to use, than what we saw just going back a couple of weeks ago, where it was swing and miss 3 times to go back to the dugout, Jody?
Slightly, but not a lot. And I heard the guys on WIP field a call last night, and again, didn't have the answer. Hoskins was awful last night. Not only the bad play made in the field, he struck out 4 times. 4 times. He's your number 2 hitter. You got him between Schwarber and Realmuto, which is getting you to Harper, and he struck out 4 times. And that's Rhys Hoskins. Rhys Hoskins, when he's hot, he Judgian-like effect on a lineup, like just flat out carry it on his back by himself. But when he goes cold, oh my God, it's the Arctic Circle, and that's what he was last night. They picked a bad time as a good offensive, not a killer offensive line, a very good, solid home run power for sure. 5 home runs the other night, ties the World Series record. But they got a couple of guys that aren't clicking at the right time right now. And the Astro pitching has got a lot to do with them having some offensive struggles.
Philadelphia Phillies yesterday in their bullpen, we saw Brogdon. We got Dominguez. So Robertson, you saw Alvarado. You're going to have a day off. It's all hands on deck. Game 7 mentality. I know you say ride with Wheeler, but if you're sitting there and I tell you, hey, look, you got a 3-3 game in a 4th inning, and Wheeler looks like he doesn't have it, and Rob Thompson's like, I don't want to get it away from me. You see Suarez, you see Alvarado. Where are you going next in that spot? Because he's going to use horses. If he's pitching like it's Game 7, Jode, in Game 1, he better be doing that obviously in Game 6. Who's first guy up for you?
The one guy who it wouldn't be is the guy who you suggested earlier. I really don't think they're going to go. And I know they use Ranger in relief. Shoot, he got a save in this series.
Yes, he's just been so good, Joe. That's the only
and he's been really good.
Game 7.
But I think you have to save him for Game 7. I think they'll use everybody else, but if Alvarado's got to come in and they used him in the 4th previously in the series, maybe even the 3rd. If it's and this is a hypothetical, so it's 5-4 in the 3rd. The Phillies have actually put up 4 runs. They're in it. It's offensive, but Wheeler is as hittable as he was the other night. Yeah, I think Alvarado can be that. And if you got a big Alvarez at bat coming up, I think he could be in the game as early in the 3rd. And everybody else are open for interpretation and can be put in the game at any time. It's funny because he's the first guy you went to. He's the one guy I don't think Rob Thompson will use. I think he's going to go to great lengths to have Ranger Suarez available to be his Game 7 pitcher.
All right, last one. Jody McDonald joining me, the pulse of Philadelphia as much as anybody, which means that you understand that nobody's going to breathe much in the next few hours leading up to this game in Game 6. Level of confidence for you that we're seeing 7 and Sunday night we have baseball is right about where, Jody? Not a good start, man.
If I'm being honest, I might as well be honest with your fan base because we probably got a couple Philly fans called Jody Mack. No, it's below 50%. They're behind for a reason. The Astros have been the better team all year, and they've been the better team in the series. They deserve to be up 3-2, but it's not 0. because the Phillies have shown the capabilities to deal with all season long adversity, falling behind. They had the bad start to the season. It gets the manager fired. Rob Thompson comes in. They've had games where they've been down by 5 runs and they come back and won. The only thing they haven't proven, they've proven they can come back for segments of a season. They've proven they can come back in an individual game. They haven't had to prove that they can come back in a series, because they took out the Cardinals in 2, and then they took out the Braves in 4, and then they took out the Padres in 5. So they haven't had to rally in a series. But if those other 2 are applicable, and you could say rallying is rallying, then they got a chance going back to Houston. Of course, you got to get game 6, otherwise you get to game 7. But I do think we've seen momentum in these series, in this particular series, change on a dime. Because it's you win, I win, you win, I win, you win, I win. And they have to get the first one. And then, even though maybe a pitching edge, if he can not have to use Ranger Suarez and prove Casey Stern wrong, and he saves him for game 7, then they can absolutely win it.
Hey, look, first of all, 2 things. I'll let you know. 1, prove me wrong, not going to be difficult. 2, Philly fans are keeping therapists, those online therapists in Philadelphia right now, getting a lot of hits over the next 24 to 48 hours. Joe, appreciate you, buddy. Thank you. Enjoy game 6.
Anytime, brother. You know I love talking baseball with you.
There he is, the great Jody McDonald, giving us the pulse of Philadelphia. Robert gets in on the chat and says, I like the way Dusty managed Verlander perfectly last night. Certainly did, gave him an opportunity, hung with him. Verlander was certainly appreciative of that, able to get his first win in the World Series. And we get a win because we're coast to coast and then some. As live from his home in Barcelona, AJ10, Adam Jones, kind enough to hop on board. What's going on, bro? How are you, man?
¿Cómo estás, mi amigo?
Oh, sí, bien, too. So, first of all, I just want to tell people, just figuring out, like, you gave me too much credit. I knew what time it was by you more than you knew what time it was going to be by you right now, and you gave me credit. I just wanted to Google. I just put I type in what is it now in Barcelona, and that's how I looked it up. But with the time change coming tomorrow, it gets a little bit hicked up. So right now it's 5:30 Eastern by you, right?
How Spain does it with daylight savings. Japan didn't do it. So I need to do the same thing. My wife has the world clocks all on her phone, so she just I need to just do that and post. I thought it was 6 hours. I guess it was 6 hours because it's always 8 and 5. So good. Now I'm informed. Now I can bother people.
See, man, I don't ever say I taught somebody something once in life, so that's all that matters. Hey, first of all, it's good to see you, man. And I always learn. Yeah, right. And I think back to, I'll never forget, and I'm not sure if you remember this. You may. But one of the first times I ever interviewed you on my show, when I was doing it over at XM almost 20 years ago, you had a broken tail light and had somebody pull you over, and you told me to hold on during the interview because you were getting pulled over, and we heard the whole thing in the background. So I just want to say, like, your dedication's not only coming from Barcelona, but you stayed there through a traffic stop and hung with us on the phone. So I just want to know, 18 years later, thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Oh, no problem. And, I did nothing wrong, so.
No, you had a taillight out.
Nothing wrong.
No, nothing wrong.
I mean,
nothing
wrong. I apologize, and just let them do what they need to do.
I just love the dedication,
and keep it moving. Yeah, for sure.
I love the dedication.
I'm not afraid. Yeah,
I love the dedication. Dude, I love the dedication, and by the way, I love the backdrop with all the family in the background. Let me start here.
Yes,
Verlander gets a win yesterday.
Yeah.
I know here's a guy, and you faced him a zillion times. Here's a guy who's a Hall of Famer, 39 years old, Adam. He's going to win a Cy Young. He going to say, and I know mean the right things, right? That he wants to win a World Series with the team. But how much better do you think he's going to feel now that he's able to accomplish getting that victory finally in a World Series like he did last night?
Well, I mean, it's just his whole entire special. I mean, he's not going to win Comeback Player of the Year. He's going to win Cy Young, which will come after missing the entire season last year. I mean, it's impressive. It's crazy that's the World Series, but no sweeter time to have it. You know what I mean? It's like okay, he knows of that, but he knows of his unbelievable success throughout his entire career. And I just think this, obviously winning. I mean, they got one more game to win, but I'm talking about for like the personal. But they still have one more game to win, and they're playing on this do it for Dusty mantra, which I think is unbelievable. This is the last thing for Dusty Baker. And again, I still hate the Astros. At some point in time, you just have to just say, look, they're good. They're a machine. Whatever they did in the past, that's okay. That's a mistake. You still can think. At some point in time, you just got to say they're good. And they ran well. And they just have talent. Keep coming. Look at the starters. They lost an unbelievable shortstop in Carlos Correa. Jeremy Pena is going to finish second glove, LCS MVP, online to win World Series MVP as a room. Skip a heartbeat. They lose Garrett Cole. Okay. Christian Javier comes in. Framber Valdez. Respect. They're good. And this just all goes to, and I know Verlander, especially mentoring the hell out these guys. So I know this has to feel just so much professional, but as a man, as a father, just like all these emotions that run a little bit bigger as you get older.
We're talking to Adam Jones. When you sit there and you watch Pena, it's amazing the poise that he's got, man, just watching him. And I know he's learning from watching guys, and they've talked about a lot, I know in the broadcast, that Carlos Correa was really hanging with him and helping him out when he was basically taxi squatting it down the stretch last year. But I want to go back to a point that you made, because you're right. Because everybody, I've been saying this, Adam, because everybody getting on the Astros for what they've done the last few years, Pena wasn't there. Yordan Alvarez wasn't there, right? The pitchers weren't doing it. Even Verlander was there. Valdez not there. Javier not there. Ryan Presley not there. Do you as a player feel for, I know nobody's got empathy for the guys who were there with the trash cans, but how about for the guys who aren't getting the credit because they're getting lumped in for something they weren't even part of the organization at the time?
Part of it, yeah, it's like being a Yankee, being a Red Sox, being a Cub in certain markets. Unfortunately, being a Dodger and being it's unfortunate. You can be the nicest person on earth. It just is what it is. But those players, they seem to not give one crap, and they got the perfect Dusty Baker, and they went over there and won 2 games in Philly. I was there for the 3 Padre games, and that place is crazy. They booed Dusty Baker so bad it hurt my heart, but that's Philly, and that's but they got the right guy at the helm, and they got the right players also without Tuve, who's been through it, Verlander, who's been through it, Maldonado. They got the right guys. Yordan Alvarez and Gurriel, who was a rookie, at a 32-year-old rookie at that, who's been through it, to be like, look, don't worry about this noise. We're going to get it, and let's bust these guys' butt. And that's what they've been doing. That's 5-6 years. So you just got to give the guys the flowers and tell, and just say that they've produced. And I know the guy who signed all the young pitching talent, he's going to be the assistant, I believe. So that's how the process works. That's how you move up in the world, and to be guys like that who just beaten to the ground in long hours, and he's going to be now just getting to wear some khakis and a nice tie, and he's sitting in class flights everywhere, opposed to sitting in the back, and it's going to be a little bit different, and he earned that, and that's the beauty of the game that we don't get to see.
As somebody who was 4-time Gold Glover, should have been more than that, and understands center field as well as anybody defensively. Take me to McCormick, who, by the way, is a Philly kid. I mean, how about that in front of his family in that spot beautiful. Yesterday?
Oh, beautiful.
Watching that play, and I just had Jody McDonald, who's in the building. I'm not there. You can only tell on TV, certainly so much, but the ball carrying a bit. So maybe it kind of looked like he's tracking it. When you're watching that play, take me through what impressed you most about the play McCormick makes there in that spot.
Well, it's the summer. It's gone. We know that the ball is hot. JT hit the ball. Hey, McCormick made one hell of a play. Because if you give up a single, so what? If you give up a double, that's big. When a one-run game. And I was young about it. He said, look, you got to back up a little bit. And they got the perfect guy coaching that, who taught me how to play center field. So I just know him. Hey, look, respect him. Like he said, likes to go to right center field. Shade that way. I played against him. Shade that way. If he pulls it, it's out. And he got a great jump. And just like he said, and like I think every outfielder said in certain outfields that have concrete all around, and they have a concrete on the toe. That's a steel cage. In the World Series, you got to go through it. Toronto, they got this glass thing. You got to do what you got to do. There's certain outfield, you got to do what you got to do. And I'm just like I watched the catch, and I'm just like, wow. But then watching Boom Mancini at first make that unbelievable play after not playing first base. I mean, that's how you win a World Series, because the Phillies are good. That's how you win a World Series. And just watching that play McCormick, I just was like, that's how you do. Text message he got out of mixed emotions, like nice catch, you bastard, great, like, you know what I mean, like just some mixed emotions from all his family and friends. I love you, son. I don't like it.
And he gonna be watching that highlight and that video for a long time. Although he's gonna have family members who are not gonna be so happy with it being Philly fans. Oh, hey, I'm sure somebody gonna give him one. Oh yeah, for sure. It's crazy too, because we've seen some really dominant catches in the outfield so far in this. It always comes down to right between the margins. But you mentioned Trey. Here's look, if you're not a Philly fan, everybody rooting for Trey Mancini. And when the Phillies aren't playing him, everybody, including the Philly fans, because we know what kind of dude he is and person he is. How good did you feel for him, knowing how much he struggled at him at the plate, that he's able to come through and have that signature moment where when he looks back at this, he knows, hey, I was able to contribute that moment to get us this win if they win the World Series?
Well, I mean, I know him, and it just a tremendous dude with a big smile. And he can snap with the snap, because he smiles when he snaps. It's hilarious. It's like one of the best snaps. Smiles when it snaps. But no, I mean, I know he understands his frustration. I've been texting him. He's like, hey man, I just told him, hey, big fella, you got to clean it up. You know what you're doing. Have a couple extra cheesesteaks, get that power. But he understands that his contract, he can contribute. And like Maldonado said after the no-hitter, so what? It was a no-hitter, Vasquez. We're focusing on winning these games. It's about winning the game. You take out Vasquez is Vasquez? I believe so.
You talking about Christian Javier. Christian Javier. Yeah.
You took him out, and they're like, why are you taking him out? It's a no-hitter. No one cares. It's about winning the game. It's about winning. And he's in an environment for the first time in his career that he don't care what role he plays, and that's a double right there. And with the Karam, who knows that's a game, that could be a game winning double right there. So, and obviously it happens so quick, but I love how they're highlighting it going back, because in first base in a hostile environment with Schwarber, who is one of the hardest hitting ball guys in first base in 29 days, like I'd be terrified. But like I said, the ball caught him, but he had the glove on. Playing a tremendous moment for a tremendous guy, and hopefully they can reel off one more, and for a lot of other guys.
Let me take you to the plate for Game 6. I want to talk about your podcast too here in a second, because and getting in on that side with Jerry Coleman, which I'm excited about. You're at the plate. You're Framber Valdez, watching him, dude. Like, I mean, the efficiency he's got with the fastball to set up that breaker and the spin on it. People don't realize, I know you do, but like, because it's so effortless seemingly for him to get, he putting guys in a box because he's ahead in the count. They got nowhere to go. And that thing, they got no chance. What's your approach? If you're the Phillies, you already faced him once. You know how dominant he is. You've seen what happens with that pitch, and nobody seemingly could hit it. What's the approach of Adam Jones, and what are you trying to tell the Philly, especially the right-handed bats, if you're in this spot in Game 6 against Valdez?
I mean, these are professional hitters, and they understand that look, it ain't no coming back from this. You lose, you're done. So it's about just doing whatever it takes. The scary thing about this, the scary thing about the swing last night from Real Muto, swing right there. And if he does that swing, and he did that off a righty, that's his pulling off a lot of the sliders and stuff like that. You can see that. He stayed on that ball and hit the crap out of it again this summer. But if he if he repeats that swing, that will be scary because guy behind him, Harper's absolutely raking. So if he can repeat it, because that, you know, although it wasn't out, he knows that, like, that's like, come on, that's what's like deep down, like, ooh, that might have locked me in right there. So it's, you know, guys are gonna have to understand that. Okay, he got a nasty two-seamer and a nasty curveball. He's good away, and how that happens, that's up to the player. But that's sports work. You find a way, and you know, there's times when you win a championship, you win a game, and you 0 for 4 to help you win, and that's all that matters. Just like Boom Boom, like McCormick, those guys are there, but they've been playing the hell out of the other side of the ball, and that's the beauty of playing defense, is that there's damage, you ain't getting no hit, and you know, you see guys playing tremendous defense, great defense, not known for his glove, but playing tremendous defense right now. Like, that's how the game environment.
Adam Jones joining us live from Barcelona. So I want to put you just one more on the hitting side, because you know what it's like to be in a spot where they're not going to let you beat them, and you could just feel that, I'm sure. Bryce been patient, right? He's been great, but he's always been patient. He walked twice yesterday, and he's always aggressive. We know that, but he's aggressive early, and then he can kind of, you know, wear you down in a count and kind of hang in there and eventually take his walks. He's done a better job, certainly over the years, at spitting on that ball in the dirt. He's hanging in with it, and, you know, he's been great. But behind him, Castellanos, even though the ABs hadn't been better, hasn't come through often, right? You got Bohm, who, little feast or famine, though he's had a couple of good at-bats. How do you, as a player in Bryce's spot, how did you, when you were in these spots, not try and do too much in a Game 6 season on the line and be able to turn it over to the guys behind you in a lineup and stay with that theme? How difficult is that to not want so bad that you're kind of getting out of yourself a little bit in a spot like we're going to see Saturday night?
I wish there was an answer. There's always the cliche. Well, you know, you just got to be patient and get your pitch. Man, who knows? Like, you just there's so many emotions going through, so frustrating. People try to be like, oh, you just got to just relax, and then, you know, no one way to do it. It's just but then it goes back to get your pitch and be aggressive. Do what got you there. You know, do what made you the you know, the best part about remembering that part. Do what got you there is in the minor up. There's always that. Now it's that saying, and somebody told me that. It's like when I came up. Now, you know, it's you know, you have to hit behind the runners. Nowadays it's just yeah, let it eat. But you got to do what got you there, and you got to be scrappy. Harper's going to be Harper. I mean, he doesn't have a $300 million contract just because, you know, he was on Sports Illustrated at 16. Now, but Castellanos got a $100 million contract. That means that, you know, he's in. They believe by his tail. So, you know, I know him well, and I know he's biting at the bit and going to do something big. So, or be aggressive towards doing something big. At the end of the day, you got to hit it. It's part of the game, man. It's the most frustrating part. Is, you know, the Harper should be hitting 2 because, you know, the higher you hit the guy in the lineup, the more chances you have the guy that is true. But it's just so many different variables to everything, and how they got now. So it's like, what would you change? You don't change. And, you know, guys gonna do or die. Figure it out any means necessary.
I want to throw one more at you and then talk about the pod. I know you're stepping away from the World Series a second, because I know the Padres didn't win the series. They have such a great run. They don't get past Philadelphia. How proud were you of Manny, the way we know what he's been a great player for a long time. We all know that. But especially after Tatis went down with whatever happened with that, his leadership skills I'm taking you from the outside because I'm not in the room. Yeah. And by the way, I wish more media people would admit we're not, right? So I don't mean clubhouse availability, but I'm not in there. But from the outside, you could visibly see, to the naked eye, just the leadership skills and the presence be just a little bit different. And the way that it seemed like the team was resonating towards him as a leader seemed a little different than we'd seen in his career. Is that reality? Did you watch that play out, and how proud are you of him for the way he's handled himself?
I mean, as a man, I mean, turning 30, you got the 10 years. I mean, I could so many different things, but he led that team from start to finish. I know he's not going to win the VP. I think he's going to to Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt had a fantastic year. Can't deny that. No denying that. Team was the most important player because of the factors that you said. He was the most consistent, all consistent. If he faltered, anyway, he didn't go on a DL when he sprained his ankle. 8 days, 12 days, 2 months, who knows? Like that would have been their season. Then they got the big trade for Soto. Soto and Bell didn't rake how everybody expected. He still remained consistent. And then obviously the big news is that consistent throughout the entire season. And I think that's what you call value. That team, obviously, there's variables. With Darvish had a great year. Musgrove had a great year. Snell, there's the bullpen was great. Suarez was great. At the end of the year, Hader figured it out. So there's obviously a lot of variables, but when it comes to value, that's what it is. Kim played hell of a shortstop.
Oh, terrific!
I don't know if he was short. I'm not sure, but he played hell of a shortstop. I think Dansby Swanson won it, which is
Dansby did win it. Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he was great.
But
he
Kim
was great too.
Kim, under those circumstances, like, okay, damn, when am I gonna move? When am I gonna go to the utility? Oh, he's not coming back. Like his whole year, it was just about like get bumped and played unbelievable. Like Trent Grisham having a great postseason, bit of a season, and that's how you win. But Manny steered that shit. He should get. I believe he's the most valuable player. But again, Goldschmidt, fantastic year. So no disrespect, and as rightfully so. But Manny, it just was impressive. I think the next few years the Padres have a window, and hopefully they do something in that. Padres as of growing up there, but just as I've seen the city just gravitate to him more, man. We got the goals, which is amazing, but it's a minor league hockey team. We ain't got nobody. We need a high hockey team. We need an NBA team. Damn, the Chargers, I get they left with. But there's a team that needs to back to San Diego, man. Come on.
Well, dude, I'll take it. Hey, look, hey, you got great weather. That's something. You got the best weather in the country.
Weather.
Yeah, best weather in the country. So that's something. And nobody likes going to winter meetings except when we hear they're in San Diego, and then where everybody's excited. I want to ask you about the podcast because, I mean, clearly, if there's anybody in this world of podcast that should have had one a long time ago, it's you. The spot you did, and for people who don't know and don't, they obviously follow you at Simply AJ10 on Twitter, but you can get Adam's podcast, the Adam Jones podcast, at Adam Jones Pod. And you and Jerry Coleman, it's fantastic. The spot with Justin Tucker that you did was hilarious. And obviously with some Ravens love there. What made you want to start doing this? And why, because you could have done a podcast a long time ago. I'm sure people have been bugging you about it. So what finally gave you the itch to want to do one?
At the time now, as just my first full year retired, and just as the season is up, some next couple of days, like I'm my first year of not playing baseball in a long time. We have a good relationship. We always have. We always went back and forth, and we just like against each other. But the most important thing is that my market is Baltimore. When social media started, when I got to the All-Star games, it was because of Baltimore. And, Baltimore just has always showed it's like it fits. It fits the narrative. Obviously, we're going to talk on national stages, but about national things. But my narrative, especially when it comes to sports and Orioles baseball, the Ravens, I think that's Baltimore related. I was there for 11 years. So it fits my narrative. And, I got a lot to say. It's great telling people stories and all that kind of stuff, but it's cool to get paid to do it. So, fun.
Hey,
of course, but it's fun to give these stories out because a lot of people, I can't explain really how you do it. And I don't want to do Instagram lives and do this. I'll give you a good amount of stories once a week, and and try and prepare for another good amount of good things that athletes have to say. And I think it's great when athletes are open and letting people know that, look, this happened, good or bad. I didn't come through here. This was bad. Athletes can explain it for themselves. I think it's even better, and that's what we're doing. We're just talking crap
and having
these
fun,
guys,
man,
having
and having fun, not taking yourself too seriously.
Most importantly,
so that's
no,
dude,
we never do.
That's the most important thing, is not taking yourself too seriously and having fun, because people want the stories, man. They want the real life. And like, that's the great part about, to me, especially like the crossover stuff, like where you're talking to guys playing football, and like, everybody wants to. I always say every rock star wants to be a baseball player. Every baseball player wants to be a rock star. I mean, that's why those relationships and those conversations are great. Dude, I mean, I've appreciated you for the years, many, many years. I'm so thankful for you coming on, dude. Thanks for doing this with me for a few minutes, and I'll bug you again soon, and I'll make sure everybody gets on board with the podcast, because they better get on yours.
I appreciate it,
soon.
brother.
And I love the backdrop. You're doing a nice job.
Yeah.
I like the backdrop.
Yeah, we got
I like that.
The feng shui of the pictures and stuff.
Es perfecto, mi amigo. I like that. Thank you, AJ. Appreciate you, bro.
Okay.
There
Anytime,
he is,
brother.
Adam Jones. Thank you. Joining us here as we continue here on Unfiltered. In October Unfiltered, you can join us 3 ways. Over, of course, on the YouTube side, or through my Twitter, and everywhere where everybody's getting them on Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. Get a chance to talk now to a guy who knows a thing or two about baseball, and many more than a thing or two, a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer. The CINCINNATI Cincinnati Reds fans know him as a lifer. Everybody else knows him, one of the best shortstops of all time. Is Barry Larkin kind enough to join us here on the Unfiltered Pod? Barry, appreciate this. How are you, sir? I'm doing really well. I see you talking to me. I cannot hear you. Just make sure, maybe take, I don't know if you have AirPods in, take them out, or trying to, check the mic. Make sure, try taking those out and have the sound come out through the computer. It might actually be better that way. Let's say, oh, now I hear you. I got you.
You can hear me? You got me now?
I got you now, sir. Yeah. I appreciate this, Barrett. Thanks for doing it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so I want to talk about a number of things, including the work that you're doing with Baseball United. For people who don't know about it, they need to know about it. And we're going to get a chance to do a lot of conversation about Baseball United, which, for people who don't know, is the first professional baseball league created to serve the Middle East and South Asia, area with over 2 billion people, 1 billion cricket fans, ownership group led by that man, Barry Larkin. How about Mariano Rivera? Hi. It's one of the only minority-owned professional sports leagues in the world. Their baseball website is baseballunited.com. I want to talk a bunch about that, and we will. I got to ask you first, though, your impressions. World Series. Dusty now finally, he's that 1 win away, Bear, from that elusive World Series title. Astros up 3-2. What's been your impression of the series so far?
Yeah, really impressed. It's been some fun games to watch. Obviously with past season and get an opportunity to go to Philly and have a chance to win the World Series. That's what it's all about. I'm a huge Jeremy Pena fan. He's been amazing this entire postseason. So I'm kind of torn, but I'm looking to be entertained, and that I am.
Barry, what's impressed you most about Pena's defense? I mean, first time that we've seen a Gold Glover as a rookie.
Yeah, I think the fact that he is he's so polished at such a young time in his career. Geronimo Pena, I'm sure, has a lot to do with that. So Jeremy, I'm assuming, is not affected in the fact of playing at the highest level. But I think the thing that has been so impressive to me has been just his age, the way that he goes about it. He acts like he's been there before, and it's super impressive.
Yeah, and in counts like he's been with 2 strikes as a hitter. I mean, it's so impressive. Obviously he's got a lot to lean on in that lineup. He's in a position where he doesn't have to feel it the way that Bryce Harper is, where he's on the other side. And look, they've had great offense across the board, Barry, but they're clearly making a point to not let Bryce beat them. And you've been that guy. You know what that feels like when teams are sitting there in their game planning and saying, "Hey, look, I'm not giving you anything. It's not going to be an intentional walk, but I'm going to make you get outside of your own comfort zone and outside the zone because I'm going to go attack," in this case, Nick Castellanos. How difficult is it for a guy like Bryce, who I know walked twice yesterday, Barry, but to stay within himself, now down 3-2 in a series, and not try, like I think human element, a lot of us at home would think, and try and do too much in that spot, but to then still be patient and let others do it because they're not going to let Bryce beat him in Game 6?
The stage is obviously magnified playing in the World Series, but this is not a new tactic. This isn't something that is just something batting lineup. This is nothing new that they are looking at. When you go into a series, no matter if it's the first series of the season or you game plan and you say, okay, there are a few guys that we cannot allow to beat us. And Bryce Harper is the same guy. Now, there are times during the season where he hasn't been hot. And right now, because maybe there's an injury, he's not swinging the bat as well. But the point is he is an absolutely great player. And you just cannot allow him to beat you. Nick Castellanos hitting behind him just hasn't been able to put it together. Rhys Hoskins, all those guys, they just haven't been able to collectively team that wins the World Series. It's the team that's playing the best. And that is a really, really important thing to understand. And it's very frustrating. Some odd games during the season. They dominate during the season. And then you get a team that comes in from a wild card and they're playing better baseball at the World Series that we played against Oakland. Had we played Oakland at a different time during the 1990 season, we may not have beat them. We at the time were the team that was playing the best. And as I said, this is nothing new for Bryce. This is nothing new for that, getting the timely hits at the right time. And that's just, at least it did not happen in last night's game.
We're talking to Baseball Hall of Famer Barry Larkin joining us, part of Baseball United, which we'll get a chance to talk about a bunch here. I want to ask you, because you mentioned 1990, and it's one of those situations where, and I love when people do this because, and luckily it wasn't social media back then, because you would have had percentages and polls, Barry, of what percentage of people thought you had a chance to win. It would not have been very high, right, from the outside.
Right.
How much did that in the Phillies, and this is why I asked this, because the Phillies are living this life, right? I mean, they've been this way pretty much. Yeah, okay, maybe against San Diego, people thought they had a chance, but nobody picked them against St. Louis. All they had to do was win 2 out of 3. People do that all season. Everyone said no chance, right? The Braves beat them up all year. There's no chance you can beat them, and there's no chance you can beat Houston. And here they sit now. They're down 3-2, but they're in this thing. How much did momentum fuel you with that group? And how much did it help that the outside, we always hear it doesn't matter what the noise is, but if the noise is against you, does it help in that spot?
I feel like in 1990, we heard a lot about how we didn't have a chance. Our manager and Lou Piniella used that as bulletin board material, something to put up just to motivate, to show the world. It's like, you use whatever motivation at the time. So, the fact that people are saying that you don't have a chance, it just makes you even more convicted. But listen, you're playing in the World Series, booing you, or everyone in the stadium is cheering you. I don't care if every media outlet says you have no chance or they're expecting you to win. It really does not affect the play. It may affect how you respond to questions afterwards. You guys never gave us a chance. I've heard that you hear that every single time. What do you guys? What are they going to say after the fact? But during the engagement, it really does not. It really does not affect you at all.
Barry, when you're, and I've got one or two more, and then I want to talk a bunch about baseball United, but I want to ask you about, you mentioned the Astros, and, even talking to, look, I've talked to a number of players on and off the air who were against them in that season, going back to really New York and LA specifically, right? And even some of those guys, it's worn off a bit, but, they're certainly not going to be apologetic towards what the Astros did and the garbage cans and everything else. But you mentioned Jeremy Pena. He's not there, wasn't there. Yordan Alvarez wasn't there. Most of these pitchers weren't there. Even the ones who weren't doing it. Dusty at the forefront certainly was not there. How much do you think will be taken away from their World Series title? Not for them individually, but just the way as we, this baseball world, look at it, because of what's still remaining from that thing they did, which was a big deal a few years ago.
Well, first of all, it was a big deal. But, you still have to go out there and you have to play. As I said, you use the noise to your Houston clubhouse is, hey, are we cheating now? Right? Or it doesn't make a difference if we're beating on, as I said, whatever conveniently you can use at the particular time to motivate yourself. And at the end of the day, if Houston ends up winning, so what are you gonna? So what? It's all media driven, and I think this is what people. Well, this is what players certainly understand. They go out there and play the game. You either win or you lose, and either you're a media darling or they don't like you. It's really the fanatic, and I think every player has to realize that, and everyone has. It's an outlet. Everyone has the ability to share their opinion, especially with their opinion known, and that's okay. And that's okay. It can be fun. I tend to, when I talk to my son about it, and he gets professionally, I tell him to have fun with it, and he does have fun with it. And you know what? You can use it once again as motivation. It doesn't make a difference. If you win, you win. And if you win, you win. You are a winner. Now, people may not interpret you that way. They may say it's conditional on how you won. But the fact of the matter is you're very, very difficult to do at the highest level.
And then you can never take it away from you. And internally, you don't get to this point if you don't have enough fortitude to be a harder critic on yourself than anybody else. So you should also be proud of yourself if you're in this spot. Take me back to your win away. They always say the last win in all these series and in all the sports, it is the hardest, right, to finish a team off, especially a team like Philadelphia where they're putting that fight in Phil's for sure. What do you remember about being a win away and taking the field that night? And do you sit there and fight yourself from counting down outs, or is that something naturally that in that spot you're doing because you're working your whole life, Bear, as a lot of these guys are and you were, to that moment where you're that close to winning the whole thing?
Naturally, you're counting down now. 3 more. Yeah, 6 more. 9 more outs, boys. All right, listen, our case, let's just get the nasty boys in the game. Let's win the first 6 innings of this game. Jose Rio pitching. Let's just get him a run or 2. You do talk like that, but it's all consistent with the strategy, right? It's this confidence that this is your game plan, and if we can do this, it really doesn't make a difference who we're playing. If we can do this and put ourselves in the opportunity to win, you certainly, in our situation in 1990, it was okay. We won the first 2 games in Cincinnati. Now we got to at least win one. Oh, we won that first game, and we beat them pretty good in that first game. All right, boys, there's just one more, one more. And it was really important for us to win. Later, lacerated his kidney. Billy Hatcher broke his wrist, or was hit in the hand and had a broken wrist. Jose Rio was on the mound and pitching and back for game 7 if this went 7. So two of our best players, our leader in Eric Davis, and our player that was playing the best at the time, Billy Hatcher, those later in the game, and they were out for the series. And so it was like, we need to win now. Today, we have to get this done. And we thank goodness we had a lead. It was a very close ball game, and we were really good at winning close ball games. We were able to. We had a lot of speed. We moved advanced runners over with a bunt here and there and a walk here and there, and played really solid defense and threw strikes. And then we got the nasty boys in the game. It's your game plan, but what you have to realize is the team that's opposing you, they understand it's your game plan. So as we are saying, they're saying we can't be in that position, right? Because they know that gives us the advantage. And so, there's the strategy. I love putting things together. It's a fun game. It's a strategic game. And as I said, just watching this World Series, I sit and I watch it critically, some of the moves that they're making, and how the players are performing.
Well, I tell you what, they're not necessarily Dibbs and Charlton and Randy Myers, but the Abreu and Montero and Presley, for example, same thing. That's Dusty's mindset's going to be Valdez. Give me whatever you can give me, and let's put it in those hands of those horses. Because you go back to game 1, and I love Dusty. Probably the mistake maybe he made was not at least even if Verlander's going to give up some, make it 5-4 when you hand it to Abreu. But by the time they got it to those guys, they didn't have the lead anymore. We'll see how that goes. The Hall of Famer Barry Larkin joining us. Part of Baseball United, the first professional baseball league created to serve the Middle East and South Asia, area that's got over 2 billion people, 1 billion cricket fans. The ownership group includes Barry, and how about the great Mariano Rivera? You could argue maybe the greatest postseason pitcher of all time. I don't care whether he was a starter. It's one of the only minority-owned professional sports leagues in the world. The website, baseballunited.com, which I'm going to show you in a second. Let me start, though, with how'd you get involved and what made you passionate about getting involved with this group, Barry?
Well, I've worked with Major League Baseball internationally for many years, ever since I retired. I spent a lot of time with Major League Baseball to develop the game and globalize the sport of baseball for multiple years. When I retired in 2004, first thing I did to stay connected and work with some of their international programs. So my ex-coaches were working there before I arrived and asked me if I had any interest, and I certainly did. I love to travel and the challenge of helping to develop the game. Well, I also worked on behalf of the federal government under the George Bush administration and the Barack Obama Sports United. And we would travel to different countries, obviously promoting diplomacy under the auspices of so a lot of interaction internationally for me. Something that I've always been passionate about is player development. And so the two together kind of led me down the Sports United program. I did spend time in India and noticed that there were a lot of tremendous athletes in India, baseball players. So it was always in my mind an area where there's the athleticism, obviously the numbers, and figured we could pick a couple of that happened in 2012 I believe it was. And then in 2014, 2013, 14, they came out with the movie $1 Million Arm. And two of the players from at the time came through some of the programs that we set up as part of this Sports United program that we did a few years prior to them participating and getting it. I've had a real thirst for travel and the love, the challenge of developing baseball and teaching the game of baseball. And so combining all that together is what, as I said, led me down this path. And it's what the reason why I just.
We're talking to Barry Larkin, Hall of Famer, of course, of the Cincinnati Reds and part of Baseball United. Not only he, but Mariano Rivera, many other. I'm curious just because you talk to younger people your whole career and became a veteran in the league and got to impact other players on your team, Barry, right? A dad of athletes who have been in professional sports get to, as a dad, do it. What's the different feeling and just the emotion in terms of pride when you get to share this sport with people who don't? And I see you smiling because that's something that I can't even imagine, the impact you have when somebody who's sitting there and thinking there's no chance I could be Barry Larkin. And then you and Mo are sitting there and putting a spotlight on an area and saying, hey, look, you can. And, here's the path to get involved and to really appreciate and love and be part of this game. What is the feeling when you get to share that sort of thing? And how is it different than everything else?
Well, it's amazing. Obviously, for myself, having the opportunity to play was amazing. Having a chance to kind of help step in a different sport, being basketball, to see him to be a number one draft choice, 18th in the country, it's incredibly amazing. And the fact that he decided not to play baseball, but still, it's a professional sport, and he's amazing at what he does, and I totally respect having the ability to help a young man or a young woman understand what it's going to take them to make it to the next about it and see it manifest itself is super amazing because obviously I'm genetically attached to but I have no real true connection other than the cerebral connection with these players or the physical connection with these players to kind of help them and really kind of help to will them to success. And that's amazing. I've worked with some amazing cusp of going from good to great. And there are a lot of players that are playing in the league right now, and I won't name them, but guys that called me on draft night and said, hey, I just want to thank you, man. Guys that are signed long-term deals that called me and said, hey, you're a huge part of this. I just wanted to thank you, for your guidance and this, that, and the other. It really motivates me to stay involved and continue to do what I'm doing. Because the feedback for me, what keeps me going is to see the success of the player or just getting better. It's amazing. But the other thing, though, Casey, that I have a chance to talk about is, baseball is such a beautiful. You will develop by participating in a team sport like baseball, and the strategy of baseball and the discipline that it takes in order to be successful in baseball. These are an adult and a positive person contributing to society. But baseball in this, it offers an opportunity to players and non-players as well. There are so many touch points to baseball, be it, side. So what we're doing is we're using baseball as a vehicle to help people pursue whatever lane it is or their industry has a touch point with the game of baseball. And so as well as teaching the X and O's and the strategies of playing the game of baseball and letting people know that, the game of baseball is not just about being a baseball player. If you love the game of baseball, more importantly, if you take the time to learn the Baseball United, if you take the opportunity to learn the game of baseball, you will see that there are so many different avenues for you to have success. And as I mentioned, from a medical perspective, right? If you're a mathematic person, if you're a person that likes numbers, right? Analytics, tech, there's so much tech analytics. So it's just an opportunity for me in so many different ways to use the game of baseball as an opportunity and provide opportunities for people. We look with Baseball United, we look to provide opportunities and billion people that you were referring to. And the challenge is obviously accepting it as part of the culture. But I think the acceptance is just about being a baseball player. Because of the fact of the matter is there are certain parts of the world that have so much players that are skilled enough to play at the big league level. And that is not the areas that we're looking at. However, we at the game at the highest level, which is all relative, we are also developing the talent as well as helping to kind of craft or lead or associated with baseball.
People need to get over, and we showed the site, get over to baseballunited.com. I'll tweet it out as well. There's all kinds of information, including about the Dubai International Stadium, and what a great, unbelievable place. The site where the league will be held, and, some great interviews and conversations with the likes of yourself and with Mo and the people who are involved, and we'll make sure that everybody gets over to that. Barrett, I can't thank you enough for the time, man, and congratulations and good luck with everything with the Baseball United, and this is such an amazing when sports brings people together. We're in such a society where people promote negativity and all sorts of different things. I love the coming together of people over baseball. So all the best with it, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for doing this.
All right, Case. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you. There's Barry Larkin joining us. We appreciate him from Baseball United. Get over to baseballunited.com for all the information. Of course, one of the great shortstops of all time. Our thanks to Adam Jones for joining us here on this show. Jody McDonald. Gibby will be back with us without technical difficulties, hopefully tomorrow on the show, where we'll have much, much more as we preview game number 6 of the World Series. The Astros and Dusty Baker just one win away. Our thanks to the guests, everybody who put it together. As always, Unfiltered and October Unfiltered, presented by our good friends at BetOnline.